Hi guys, my name's Kirk Brewer and I'm a faculty member at Tulsa Community College and the chair of the communication department. And I've been asked to talk to you a little bit today about how to talk to a professor and kind of some of the differences between high school and college. So I'll be glad to do that. I was asked primarily because I've been a college teacher for 30 years. I'm very wise, as you can tell from the beard, and Ms. Brewer is my wife. So when she asks me to do something, that's what I do. I'm walking out here right now to get my mail because the first thing I want to tell you about your professor is that we are regular people just like you. We have houses, we pick up the mail, we have lawns to mow, we have dogs that we like, we have children that we usually like. But we are college professors. The reason I bring that up is that one of the things that a lot of students think is they're afraid to talk to the professor. They're afraid to ask a question because they think they're already supposed to know it all. But did you know what the number one quality is of a successful student? They've done studies on this. And the number one quality of being a successful student is being able to advocate for yourself. Now, what does that mean? Advocate for yourself. You have to be able to speak up. You have to know that your education is your responsibility. You need to ask questions. Ask questions of your professor. If you don't understand something, ask. Now, you're going to be in an unusual circumstance for this fall semester because we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. And what does that mean? That means that everybody is doing some things that are new. You may be in an online class and you haven't had an online class before. You may be in an online live section of a class. Well, you haven't had that before, and neither has your professor. You may be in a class that meets face-to-face, or even a class that's blended. All of these are different ways that TCC is adapting to the new circumstances with the pandemic. And we're all doing this so that we can be safe and we can still provide a quality education. So, with all these new things, the thing that you have to remember is that you have to represent yourself. You need to give your professors a little slack, and they'll give you a little slack. But so number one is advocate for yourself. Number two, I want you to know that not all professors are the same. I know that's a shock to you. You've probably been told by your high school teachers, just wait till you get to college. That college professor won't put up with that, whatever that is, fill in the blank, right? Maybe it's talking in class, oh no, or being late for an assignment, or, not returning an email. And you know what? There are some college professors who won't put up with that. And there are other college professors who will. Because all of us are trying to do our best. We're regular people, and we treat things differently. We run our classes differently. And so what you have to do is understand that since your professors are people, they're all individuals. So speak up to them. Now, when you are talking to the professor, there are some things that you can remain consistent. Number one, you should call them Professor, whatever their last name is. My name's Brewer, so you would call me Professor Brewer. If you were addressing me directly, if you were writing me an email, if you were talking about me to somebody else to recommend my class because I'm such a great teacher, you would say, you should take Professor Brewer's class. Now, some of your professors might tell you that you can call them by their first name, and if they've told you that you can call them by the first name, then by all means, feel free to do that if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable doing that, you're always good calling them Professor. Some people assume that if they are a college professor that they have a doctorate, and so they call them a doctor. I have students who call me Dr. Brewer. I usually correct them once because I don't have a PhD. I've just been doing this a really long time. And I correct them once if they call me doctor and just say, call me professor. You never can be sure. So your safest is to call your professor by professor and their last name. Not Mr., not Ms., not Mrs., not Miss, professor. All right. Number two, when you're talking to the professor, if you have a question to ask, if you're writing an email, be specific. Tell them who you are, tell them what class you're in, tell them what your question is. If that's in an email, if that's in a voicemail, if you're talking to them directly, you want to always remind them who you are so that they get the good context. I teach multiple sections that have 20 to 30 students in a section. So while I probably recognize your face if we're in a face-to-face class and I usually know your name, there's a good chance that I don't know all that detail, especially if I'm looking at an email. So it's part of understanding that your professors are real people and knowing that you have to advocate for yourself, know how to talk to them. Call them professor, tell them who you are, what you want, be clear and concise on your question, and tell them what you want them to do about it. Okay, and one last thing. I want you to understand that you can do this college thing. Some of you may be thinking, I'm not able, I don't know, I'm kind of afraid, this is weird, I'm doing things I haven't done before, I don't know how to do X. Well, that's why you're in class, is to learn how to do X, whatever X is. And you might not know everything that you're supposed to do, but that's okay. We're in school, we're in college, and the biggest difference between college and high school is that your professor expects you to take responsibility for your learning, to ask questions when you need to, and he or she is there to advocate for you, to talk to you, not to your parents, not to your grandma, not to your daddy, but to you about your performance in class. So I know that if you take some of these tips, remember that your professor's a person, advocate for yourself, ask questions when you need help, know how to talk to the professor, and understand that you can do this, you will be successful. And maybe I'll see you in class. Thanks. Have a great semester.